Do you love historical fictions? Are you looking for a book on Holocaust? Or are you looking for a book on World War II? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then my friends, you've come to the right video. Hey guys, I'm Sankalpita and you're watching BookGeeks India, which is a channel where I make book-related videos. If you like books, if you love reading, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like and share my videos, turn that notification on. And guys, please do comment because you know it that I love it when you comment. In this video, I talk to you about books on Holocaust and books on World War II. In this video, I bring to you 7 book recommendations that I think you should definitely read. Now, before I get into the video, I want to tell you one thing. Out of these 7 books, I have only read 6 books, and one is a book that I recently purchased and I'm looking forward to read it. Now, another thing to note here is that 5 out of 7 books are fiction and 2 of these are memoirs. And now let's get on with the video. Book number 1, which is an absolutely entertaining and a must read for anybody, is this one, The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. Now, this is a book which I just finished reading, like I finished it 2 days ago, and I am absolutely thrilled by the beauty of this book. So this is the story of this innocent young girl called Liesel Meminger, who, because of some reasons, has to leave her family and come to live with her foster parents. Her father was a communist, and because of that, her mother drops her into foster home. Now, when she starts living there, she realizes that maybe life is not that bad. Her father loves her, and he's not the typical Nazi who hates Jews and who hates communists. In fact, he's kind of the opposite, because when the need arises, he shelters a Jew. So all these 3 people, Liesel and her parents, foster parents, they live with a Jew in their basement, and if this secret comes out, it'll be the end of them. Now, in between all this that is happening in the background, Jews being tortured and Jews being killed and the World War II happening, Liesel finds respite in books. And it is in books and in reading and in words that she finds something to look forward to every day. So this is a story which is so brilliant that even if you're a guy or a girl who reads only one book in a year, I think this is one book that you should definitely look forward to, that you should definitely pick up, because it's just such a beautiful read. It is a thick read, as you can see, it's around 600 pages, but every page of this book is just beautiful. When I came to the end of it, I was literally crying because it was so emotional, and I don't even know what I was doing all these years when I had not read it. I am just disappointed in myself. So, yeah, if there is one book that you have to read on World War II and on the Holocaust, it has to be this one. Definitely this one. The second book that I would recommend to you guys is also a book that I read recently, and this is called The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Marianne Schaeffers and Annie Barrows. It has a peculiar name, as you can see, and the story behind this peculiar name is also a very, very interesting one. So, what happens is that it is obviously the World War II. Like recently, the World War II is over, and people have started picking up bits and pieces of their life, and they have started to see hope again. Now, there is this author called Juliet Ashton who used to write a lot of humorous stories, and she used to entertain masses during the World War II with her humor. But now, when the war is over, she cannot find that joy and liveliness in her. She's actually devastated. Unlike the other people who are finding hope, she's losing hope. She's also falling into a writer's block that she's not able to come out of. Now, amidst this backdrop, there arrives a letter from a guy called Dorsey Adams, who is actually a member of this society called the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. Now, this is a kind of book club which formed when this small island called Guernsey was occupied by the Germans during the World War II. Dorsey starts writing to Juliet, and slowly and steadily they starts conversing regularly. She also gets to know a lot of other members of the society, and when she starts interacting with all of them, something changes. And very soon she lands up in this island of Guernsey and her life changes. And this is the story of Juliet Ashton, of the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, of Dorsey Adams, and of books, of reading, and of words. Again, it's a book about Holocaust. Again, it's a book about the German occupation, the World War II, and about books and reading. So this is a lovely combination. And whereas the first book was a little gloomy, it made me cry. This book has a little more hope. So if you're not a fan of gloomy reads or books that make you cry, I suggest you pick up this one. The next book that I would recommend to you is this one, The Boy in Striped Pyjamas by John Boyne. So this is a book which I read last year. So this is actually a children's book, but it is about a serious topic because it is about Holocaust and the World War II. So this book basically tells us the story of this guy, this 9-year-old boy called Bruno, whose father is a Nazi officer. So Bruno lives in Germany, he lives in Berlin, and he doesn't know anything about what's going on around him. All he is concerned with is his playtime, his friends, and his small world. Now his world changes when one day he gets to know that they'll be shifting from Berlin to a very desolate place. And when he arrives there, he's just shattered because there's nobody to play with, there are no friends, and he just doesn't know what to do. So this is the story of Bruno, his friend Shumwell, and of a friendship that transcends every hatred, every bias, every prejudice, and every brutality. So this is again a beautiful book. It's a really short read. As you can see, the font size is also very comfortable. So it's a really quick read. You can easily read it in 1 or 2 days, and it's a book that is meant to be read. It is supposed to be read. The next book that I want to talk to you about is this one. Now, this is the book which I have not read. Every other book I have read. But I have heard really good things about it from booktubers, from bookstagrammers, and from book reviewers, across the internet. So this is one book that I'm definitely, looking forward to read. This book is called The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. Now, Auschwitz is the concentration camp where Jews were butchered, were mass murdered in gas chambers. So this is the true story of these two people called Lale and Gita Sokolov. Now these two were Slovakian Jews who were brought to the concentration camp at Auschwitz. Lale was given the job of tattooing the prisoners, the Jewish prisoners. And one day, while he is looking at a line of Jews waiting to be tattooed, he sets his eyes on Gita, and it is love at first sight. Right then and there, he decides that no matter what, he will make sure that the two of them survive. And this is the story of these two. So I don't know much about it because there's not a lot given on the blog. So that's all I'm gonna tell you too. And I'm really looking forward to this one, and I'll tell you all about it once I'm done reading it. The next book that I read was on my Kindle Unlimited, and I read this book way back in 2017, and ever since then I have been in love with this book. So this book is called Last Train to Istanbul, and it's written by a Turkish author called AC Kulin. Now I am sure that I butchered the name there, but that's how I pronounce it. So this is a Turkish author, and she's very famous. Like, she has written some great books that have been translated into multiple languages across the world. So this is one book that is also based on the Holocaust and on the World War II. Selva is a beautiful young girl who's the apple of her father's eye, who is one of the most important pashas who are still living from the Ottoman era. Now, she's obviously from a high society, from a high, very popular family, and somehow it happens that she falls in love with a guy called Rafael Alfandari. Now, this guy is Jewish. Though Turkey is a neutral state and it has been a safe haven for Jews from a long time, but a marriage between a high society Muslim girl and a Jew is not really socially acceptable. So there are a lot of family issues, family discords, but these are young lovers, and they decide that it is time for them to flee Turkey. That is what they do, and they move to France. Now, just when they were about to settle into their lives and enjoy their marriage, France is invaded by Nazi Germany, and there is no safety for Jews. So this is a beautiful story again, and it is different because it takes us to a different world. Like, the majority of action is happening in Turkey. Of course, a lot of it is also in France, but this is the amalgamation of two cultures. It is a story of how something that was happening in one part of the world affects the residents of another part of the world. So this is really a brilliant story. AC is an exceptionally talented writer, and if you are looking for a book on historical fiction, on World War II, on the Holocaust, this is again a book that I would definitely recommend to all my viewers. The next book that I would recommend to you guys is this one, The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. This is a book which I read a long time back, and a lot of people are very critical about it because they say it's a really boring read. But what they fail to realize is that it's a memoir. It's a memoir of a 13-year-old girl who was a victim of Nazi Germany, who was the victim of genocide. We don't know what happened to her. This is actually her diary, and the diary is reprinted as it is, as she had written it. The first entry in the diary starts in the year of 1942, in the July of 1942, and the last entry is in April 1944. It was just a matter of a few more weeks before everything could have changed for Anne Frank, but unfortunately, she did not survive. None of her family did. And later, this diary was found by a relative who decided that it should be published because it is a true account, and it comes from the eyes of a young girl who sees how torturous the world is, how brutal the world is, and yet she finds beauty in it, and yet she finds hope in it, and she wishes good for humanity. It can be said that it is a little boring and it gets a little monotonous, but you just have to remember that it's a true story, and then everything will change. Like when I was reading this book, I took my time to read it. I read it over a couple of days, and I absolutely loved it. It is such a powerful read. So Anne Frank was living in Frankfurt in Germany. Later, when the Nazis started killing Jews and they started hounding Jews together, Anne Frank, along with the family, shifted to Amsterdam, and it is in Amsterdam that she went into hiding. For years together, her family was into hiding. And this is the story of that, a family which went into hiding, a girl who was forced into hiding just because some people did not wish to see them alive. The last book that I would be talking to you about is Among the Reeds by Tammy Botner. I'm sure there are a lot of memoirs which are there about Holocaust, but this is a recent memoir that I somehow, came across, stumbled upon on Kindle Unlimited. And when I read this book, it was so powerful again. It was such an intense and powerful read and passionate read, a story of love, a story of hope that I cannot help but recommend it to you guys. So this book is actually written by an American Jew. She lives now, she's a doctor. Now she never thought a lot about her ancestry and where she came from. But somehow those fears that she had, inherited from her ancestors came haunting her, and she decided that, it is time that she has to write the story of her family. So in this book she tells us the story of her grandmother, of her father, and a lot of her relatives who survived the Holocaust. She goes back into time and she tells the story from her grandmother's, point of view. What separates this book from other memoirs, I feel, is that it's actually a very well written book. So when you read it, it reads like a story, and that is something that I really appreciated because it doesn't get dull. It actually moves forward very fast, the pace is very good, and the storytelling abilities and the writing skills are just beautiful. So I enjoyed this book and I would definitely recommend it to you also. So guys, these are the 7 books that I wanted to talk to you about. Do let me know in the comment section below if you have any recommendations for me on Holocaust, on World War II, be it fiction, be it non-fiction. Let me know in the comment section below and I will definitely get my hands on them very soon. So that's it from me in this video guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that like, also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and until the next video, which will be pretty soon. Bye!